I just think that the Chargers, they have what it takes this season to make an AFC playoff run. I don't expect year one of Harbaugh to be perfect, but I do know that with a healthy Justin Herbert, this team can beat anyone. He ends up going out there and throws for 282 yards, 10.4 average, 18 of 27 is good efficiency, especially considering how deep he was throwing. He had sacked 6 times. That was the one bad thing about this game outside of the missed kick by Dicker was the sacks. I mean, Myles Garrett had 3 of them, man. He looked like a man possessed. Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, they went up against maybe the best in the business. And of course, Garrett. They also had to deal with Zadarius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson, one of the more underrated defensive interior pass rushers in all of football. And they lost that matchup. But thankfully for the Chargers, again, they still got big plays. Dobbins had a 34-yard run. Johnson had a 66-yard touchdown catch. Lad McConkey had that 20-yard catch as well off the play action. Palmer had a 28-yard catch. The explosive plays are back. Herbert, when he has mobility, again, when he's healthy, when he doesn't have a high ankle sprain, he's as good as it gets, man. I was actually thinking about this yesterday. People are going to call me crazy. This is a Chargers channel, so maybe they won't. But I was just thinking of the most just pure talented quarterbacks in the league. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. But really, the first guy that came to my mind is Justin Herbert with his arm talent. I mean, he can just roll out of the pocket and stop on a dime and just throw it 50, 60 yards down the field. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. Also, just again, that mobility. Herbert can take over games with his legs, which is something we've seen the past 3 weeks of the season. But you have to realize that against the Cardinals, Herbert threw for 349 yards. Against the Saints, 279, and then against the Browns, 282. So Herbert's clearly healthy. He's clearly back after, of course, looking at that Panthers game when he got injured. If Herbert keeps playing like this, the Chargers can beat anyone. But you also have to give credit to the defense, right? I can't just step here and glaze Herbert and glaze the offense. The defense was amazing in this one. They held the Browns to 10 points. 7 of those 10 came with a minute and a half left in the fourth, where it was the Chargers at that point didn't really care. They were just playing soft coverage, and Jameis was able to march them down. But 3 interceptions. I'm looking at just 3.3 yards per carry for the Browns. Nick Chubb, 2.6, 15 to 39. I get that he just came back. It's only his second game or whatever, maybe third game back from that injury. But you hold Nick Chubb to that low as well. And really the only reason they even hit 3.3 was because Winston, again, late in this game was picking up first downs with his legs. I mean, you'll give that, man. You'll gladly give that. It's not going to hurt you. So that's why it was even 3.3. If it wasn't for that, it would have been like 2.5. And then as well, Cedric Tillman had a pretty good game, but no receiver was able to beat the Chargers. Again, they were keeping everything in front of them late in this one, taking time off the clock. Don't give up anything big. So the Chargers defensively, again, just absolutely dominant. I mean, how many sacks did they have? They had 6 sacks. Yeah, Herbert got sacked 6 times, but the Chargers also had 6 sacks. Tuipulotu had a good game. I was very impressed with him. We saw as well Elijah Molden came away with a pick. Louis Gilman had one. Third interception of the game was by cornerback Tarheeb Still, who got the start over Christian Fulton, who was dealing with a hamstring injury. Remember that pick by Molden that was deflected? Well, that was by Still. And then in the fourth quarter, he ended up just getting him flat out right. Just an overall good job by this Chargers rush to get home, but also a good job for the secondary to be able to undercut routes. It seemed like all afternoon the Chargers were reading the Browns' routes. They knew what was coming, and Winston got a little bit greedy. It's just a very collective win for this defense. The secondary as well, it was honestly a concern coming into the year. There was a huge question mark with the secondary if it was going to be good enough, and guys were getting hurt, which made it even worse. And then all of a sudden, it's the next man up. I mean, guys that like a casual football fan would have no clue who they are. A guy like a Cam Hart, for example, just coming in and making plays and playing very well, and I'm impressed with it. And as well, just the injuries too. And Chargers have dealt with injuries all year, and they're starting to get healthy, and now we're seeing what they're fully capable of. But again, nobody's going to overreact too much to this win over the Browns because it's the Browns, it's the Saints. That Cardinals game, looking back on it, they've won 3 in a row. They're over 500. That would have been a good game to get. But it's also how they've lost. Like, again, game-winning field goal, questionable call. Week 4 against the Chiefs, you're up 10. Week 3 against the Steelers, you're tied going to the 4th. The Chargers could very well be undefeated, but they aren't, and that's okay. They're 5-3, which means that they're the number 6 seed in the playoff picture. The 7th seed is the Broncos. Now, the Chargers have a 77% chance to make the playoffs, but if we're being honest, again, nobody really cares about that because you've got to be able to beat the Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, and Bucks. I mean, that is an absolute brutal stretch right there. And after that, you've got the Broncos, who are a divisional team, New England, and then the Raiders. So 2 AFC kind of bottom of the barrel teams. But again, you're on the road, and for a fact the Raiders are going to come into play in that. They might have a chance to knock the Chargers, maybe hopefully for us, out of the division. I mean, win that and you win the division, that would be best case. Or the one seed, I guess, technically would be the best case. But even if it's just the wild card or like anything, right? The Raiders are going to come to play regardless. Patriots, Drake may look pretty good against the Titans, right? So this is not an easy schedule. You've got to be able to come out here and get it done. Looking at 2 for 3, right? Can you win 2 of these next 3 games? To that point, you're looking at being 7-4. That would be amazing. And then all of a sudden, 2 of your next 3, you're now 9-5. And then you set yourself up to, you only have to win 1 of the next 3 games to be able to make the playoffs. You go 10-7, you're pretty much in, if we're being honest, in the AFC. You can win more than that, even better, right? So I do think that the Chargers are going to win the majority of these next games coming up. I think they're better than the Bengals, Titans, Falcons. The Chiefs is so difficult. I think a healthy Chargers team would beat the Chiefs, but that game is in their head, so I'll give the Chiefs the credit. And also, I'm biased too. I can't stand the Chiefs, but yeah, the Chiefs are better. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they've won 2 straight Super Bowls. And then in terms of everyone else, the Chargers are better than. So the only team is the Chiefs. But again, the Ravens is tough. That's a home game. Really difficult. I think the Chargers defense has me very encouraged because I think their defense can match up with the Ravens offense. It's just, but also the Ravens have the worst pass defense in football. It was 32 coming into last week. It's gonna go up because of how poorly Bo Nix played. But I think it's a good matchup. I think this has shootout written all over it. Even though the Chargers defense hasn't given up more than what 20 points this season. So I don't know if it's going to be a shootout necessarily, but I do think it could be a really high scoring game, maybe like 34-30 or something like that. But I'm all for it, man. I think that's going to be a fun game. But I just can't confidently say that the Ravens are like a much better team. They might be a little bit better, but again, we know that the Chargers, the way they like to play is they like to run the ball and they like to come after you. And the pass rush for this team was always my concern. I wanted to see the pass rush get going. And now that it has, I mean, I feel pretty good. So I love where the Chargers are at, man. In conclusion to this game, the biggest overall takeaway is Quentin Johnston's triumphant return. Shout out to Chargers Wire as well. I'm on their website. Yeah, Johnston comes back, is explosive, serving as that deep threat. I mean, he's the type of guy who a lot of people wrote off after his rookie season, but we got to remember it was his rookie season. There's a lot of football ahead of him, and man, has he been so good this year. Him and McConkey is going to be scary moving forward. Lockdown defense, without question, holding the Browns at 3.8 yards per carry. Actually, per play is even crazier. 3.3 yards per carry, 3.8 yards per play is amazing. The run game did struggle outside of that Dobbins 34-yard run. The Chargers ran for just 62 yards and 22 attempts, an average of 2.8 per carry, but they never went away from it, which is good. That's why you get that breakaway run, because you just continue to run the ball. And Herbert was amazing too, which is actually the next headline. Herbert's on fire. 14 of 16 for 250 yards in those 2 touchdowns were at halftime. However, the Chargers largely went away from the passing game in the second half because of the state of the game. And he was sacked 6 times. Yeah, that's fair. This wasn't a perfect game by any means, but it's a win. And if the Chargers can keep winning, we're going to be very happy. This team made the playoffs just 1 time with Justin Herbert. So hopefully that 77% chance ends up coming into fruition and they're able to get it done. But guys, Thunder Alley, I'm out. Peace.